Joining us right now on the phone is the man who exposed the Bigfoot hoax, Steve Kulls, private investigator and executive director of Squatchdetective.com.
The numbers of sightings, even if you take 99% of them and put them in the trash can, you turn around, you still have that 1% that can't be explained. Well, we need to explain it.
And then this thing walks across the road, makes a turn towards us. All I can remember is flipping the light on, and I see this creature.
Went to look forward, and there was a big black thing, is all I can call it.
The whole time, the whole thing was shadowing us, right behind us, right on the side of us.
I still see that damn thing to this day. It wasn't 20 feet from me.
You could see it standing from the moonlight in the tree line.
I was just scanning right to left, and it reminded me of like a gorilla.
Get somebody out here. Son of a bitch is about 6'9", I don't know.
Welcome to Squatch-D TV, exploring the Bigfoot mystery each week with your hosts, veteran researcher, author, and TV personality, the Squatch Detective, Steve Kulls, and from the Bigfoot Research Project of Kentucky, Chris Bennett. Sit back and buckle up as we bring you guests from around North America discussing the Bigfoot phenomena, but not without a few laughs, too. Here are your hosts, Steve and Chris.
And good evening, cyberspace. Welcome to Squatch-D TV for today's date, July 23rd, 2023. 7/23/23. Look at that.
That's weird, isn't it? Yeah.
I am your host, your guide, the Squatch Detective Steve Kulls, along with my co-host, Mr. Chris Bennett. Hello, Chris.
Hey, good to see you, bud. Hope everything's going well for you. And I see y'all getting some clean air up there now to breathe.
I'll tell you what, I'm sick of the smoke. The burning smoke, that is.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But
I don't see how people could stand it up there in Northeast, because some of those pictures I saw from New York State was like horrible.
Yeah.
Not just New York, the whole top of the country up there. It's got smoked out.
Absolutely. It's been horrible. And as you can see, we have the Vogel brothers with us tonight. Our guests, will be saying hi to them in 1 second. But actually, hello, Tim. Hello, Eric.
How are you, folks? Hey, guys. How you doing?
So we are going to do our usual roll call for the week. We got a lot to cover tonight. I mean, a lot. So, but anyway, let's see who is in the chat tonight. First in tonight, looks like it's Brian Barber. Welcome, Brian. Patrick Barron, hello. Sasquatch Secrets, Nikki, what's going on? Grasshopper, Joe Dryden, hello, Joe. Judy Wheeler, hello, Judy, good seeing you. Jay Fritz, there he is with his evening knuckleheads. Stephen Ward, another member of our group, welcome. He's back. Eyes in the Woods, good to see you.
Nice, welcome.
Of course, we got Mick going on.
Hey, Mick.
And there's Mick and the Meatloaf. Raptor Crazy in the house.
Raptor.
Daniel Weeks, another one of our members. Hey,
Daniel, welcome.
Don Fuller, there he is, the man, the myth, the legend, Donald, with a brand new picture up there, looking good.
See you, man. Looking handsome.
We got Tactical Bigfoot Research, Mike. Mike, how you doing, Mike? Another member, Low Rider. What's going on?
Good to see you.
Let's see, Uncle Bones too. Always here.
Uncle Bones.
Little Kilroy was here.
Kilroy.
We got Charlotte J in the house. Good to see you, Charlotte. Welcome to the Madhouse. Angel Nolan. Hello, Angel. Good seeing you tonight.
Angel, welcome.
Oh, so many here. We got Matt over from Central Florida Bigfoot.
Matt.
Did we say Uncle Bones too? Uncle Bones too is in the house. Rowdy Rout, he's here every once in a while. Hello, Rowdy. Good to see you.
Running the track way.
So, Chris, you look like a mobster in the opening of the show.
Oh, rowdy. Thank you. Appreciate. I try to look like a monster. You know.
There he is, Em and Chris in the house.
Watching that show, The Sopranos.
Joan. Yep. No snap. Well, no Snapple tonight. We got Stewart's iced tea in the mug tonight. Okay, continuing on. Here's somebody new, and welcome Telcontor. No, Telkenstar or Telkentar.
Telkentar 86.
86.
Welcome.
Sorry.
Chat is hopping.
It is.
Hey,
Noreen St. Martin, welcome to the show. Good seeing you.
Welcome.
Hey, Noreen.
D Holmes number 9. Good to see you as well. Welcome. So we're seeing a lot of new folks, and that's a good thing, and we appreciate you all being here. And we have a lot of new members this month. Over 43 new subscribers this month. So yeah, nice little jump. So welcome all to the new subscribers. But while we're on the topic, we want to welcome all our members as well.
Oh yeah.
And if you like, and like I said, we're gonna do our cheap commercial endorsement right now and get it out of the way. But if you like what we do here, take a look at this. And again, thank you to all our new members. Here we go. I want you to consider joining the channel as a member. It's a great way to support great Bigfoot research and an honest channel out there. And it starts at only 99 cents. And already we've announced the 2 new shows we're putting on there. Plus you're going to get a lot more, and you're going to see me uncensored as well. So anyway, folks, consider it. Think about it. We have 3 levels. The highest level is only $4 a month to become a channel sponsor. So a lot of great perks. Check it out. We'll catch you all later. So as you can see, we have a ton of new members. To the channel sponsors are Don Fuller, Sandra Piper, Charlie L, Angel Nolan, Jen, B. Lynn, DM Zabo, Stephen Ward, Dinah Crocuta Gigantia, and our channel supporter is Mr. 2505 Federal, Bruce Strachan, Lowrider, and David Gray. Welcome, thanks, one guys. And all, and thank you so much for subscribing. We'll have a lot more content coming in the upcoming month and this week. Yep, Steve Uncensored. No, you really don't. Some of you guys and that were in the pre-show know when I blow up. Sometimes I get frustrated. But also who snuck in? Roger Bowl snuck in too. So hello, Roger. Good to see you tonight. Thank you.
If you're watching the podcast live on YouTube, reach over there and smash that thumbs up button. Hit that like button for us. It'll help.
This is going to be a problem tonight. I have a feeling. Problem I always have with earbuds is they tend to fall out on me quite a bit, and I have a bad shoulder, so I go to reach to grab that earbud, and then I just get shooting pain up my arm and neck.
Oh no!
But anyway, you just took the comment off.
Oh,
I was
my
trying
bad.
to show that. Yep. Apparently, Telcontar 86 was at our Southwick meeting, and glad to have a new follower subscriber. Good to see you. And tonight we're going to be talking about Bigfoot, Massachusetts, coincidentally, because when I was at Southwick, I met the Vogel brothers once again, and we want to get them on the show to talk about their experiences and stuff. But a quick programming note before we get into it is that next week we're going to be talking about Bigfoot in the Uwharrie National Park, North Carolina, with Julie Wrench and David Ellis. David Ellis kind of specializes in audio, so it should be really an interesting show. So let's get back to our also, I don't know if you know, Chris, but remember the famous thermal video, the squeaky Bigfoot video, the alleged Bigfoot taking the Zagnut bar in the Uwharrie National Forest, taken by Mike Green. Well, we got news this week that Mike Green passed away.
Oh man, I hadn't heard that. Didn't know.
So he was actually 82. So it wasn't, that's how long this has been going on. Very, very sad. And of course, our condolences to all his friends and family out there as well.
Yeah.
Mike Green was always a kind person, a good-hearted person. Wrote a very interesting book at one time, which I have somewhere. I have a copy of it. Very interesting. But
well, it's one of the things, we don't get to stick around forever. We're here for a limited time, so you better enjoy it while you got it.
So, okay, Rowdy, I don't know if you're looking. Are you subscribed? Are you talking about the channel, or are you talking about the membership? The membership, you got to hit the join button. That's for the membership. The subscribe button for the channel, if on all else fails, just go to the overall channel page, and you can subscribe there. It's really screams at you there, subscribe. So, but if you're looking at joining the membership, that is the join button. Should be there somewhere. If not, you can always go to the membership tab on the channel page and join there as well. So anyway, let's get into this. So let me introduce the brothers here tonight. We got Eric and Tim Vogel, have been interested in Bigfoot since December 1976, when something with big feet came through their backyard. Well, I'm looking to hear that story. Both were registered as New York State guides for 10 years, owners of Toccoa Mountain Outdoors for 15 years, and Adventure Education Outdoor Recreation Business. Currently, Tim is working as a ranger for the last 15 years. Eric is retired. Lucky son of a gun. Which gives him plenty of time to look for Bigfoot, among other things. Both are investigators for Team Squatchdetective. That's run by John Wilk and, of course, our good friend who we've had on the show before, Dave McCullough. And the BFRO here in Massachusetts and New England. They have both had Class A, B, and C sightings and mass. And, I'm not very big on the whole class classification system, but they've had sighting encounters and experiences in Massachusetts, New York, Vermont, Maine, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, and Connecticut. So these guys have been around the bend for a while. So with further ado, and I will let you guys, now, listen, there's no sibling rivalry here on the show tonight. I think this is the first time we've actually had two brothers on. So I don't want to see any punching. I don't want to see any kicking.
History. We'll maintain.
You know what you can do is you need to punch each other. Just hide the camera for a second. Leave the sound up because that's entertaining.
Turn the camera off.
Leave the sound on. That's the fun part.
Sure.
Yeah. But so you guys can draw straws or however you want to do. Who wants to talk first? But okay, so what really piqued my curiosity in your quick bio you sent me was that in December 1976, when something with big feet came through their backyard. I don't know who wants to take that one first, but very curious to hear that story.
No, it was snowing and something, we went out in the backyard. We were kids. We were going to go out playing and sliding or something. And there's these tracks in the backyards, and they were huge feet. And we couldn't figure it out, so we started following them. And we got down as far, we had a big apple orchard and crossed over into a brook near a state park. It goes down near the Westfield River, and it goes out towards Agawam into a state park. And we weren't allowed to cross the river, obviously. And so that's where we stopped. And then next thing you know, we've got these people like us now, investigators, knocking on our door, wanting to spend the night in the field to do some investigating. And then, the police show up, and so it's a real big to-do, the TV, the newspaper, the whole deal. So, I don't know, as kids, it was pretty freaky, number one, having Bigfoot in your backyard, coming right into your backyard. It was up through the apple orchard and down on the creek and down to the river. But it was, it was pretty wild. But, there was news, media, everything that was there, so it really sparked your interest.
Believe it or not, we ran into that. The police officer who was a patrolman at the time was starting to investigate this. He became a detective, and he actually figured it out. It turned out to be a hoax. But they had everybody and their brother down here looking for this thing.
Oh, wow.
And we met him a couple of years ago at one of the events that John had in Hadley. it was interesting because, I mean, he was right there. He's he came to our house as a patrolman and wanted to interview and take pictures of the tracks that were in the snow. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So that was the basics, you know, that was the beginning. And then, of course, you know, Bigfoot came out in the theater. And I can remember walking to the Twin Cinemas to go to the theater and watch that. So it was, you know, it was there. We lived in the woods, you know, the Mitnick Park, Robinson State Park area, you know, Springfield, West Springfield area. So it's
now again, you guys live on the more to the central western side of Massachusetts rather than the eastern side. And like a lot of people, you know, they confuse New York as New York City being all metropolitan and whatnot. Of course, New York has a vast amount. In fact, you know, it's a big in dairy and apple orchards and stuff. And Massachusetts is very rural as well. You know, aside from the coastal region, which is very heavily populated, and of course, like every other state in the union, that there's different, splats of population. But surrounding those populations are these huge parks. There's a lot of state parks in Massachusetts. There's a lot of outdoor stuff in Massachusetts. You guys have
we made an outdoor living here.
Yep. You guys have investigated October Mountain State Park. I have as well. It's right over. It's right over here in the line in New York State. And,
yes, it's a hot spot.
Yep, it certainly is. But anyway, this is not about me. It's about you guys.
So
let's talk about you first getting into Bigfoot research.
Well, I would say we were doing our outdoor adventure business. We were doing guiding. We're usually, when we were guiding, we were gone 180, 185 days a year. We were in the backcountry, up in the Adirondacks, New Hampshire. We were all over the place, but it was always in the backcountry. And we've had a lot of things that were kind of odd happen at the time, but we never put the two together. And this one time that we decided to take a vacation, we went backpacking up in the Adirondacks, up in the Floodwood area. And
it was on a canoe trip.
Yeah, it was on a canoe trip. That's how we spent our vacation, and that's the way we spent our entire summer, was taking everybody else out. So we were out there just relaxing, taking it easy, doing some fishing. And there was this little stream. Now, this is where it gets touchy. There was this little stream, and he wanted to go in. And I says, all right, we'll go in. But this stream was like choked in so tight that, I was in the front of the canoe. He's in the back of the canoe. So we're pulling up and we're trying to throw over this dam. And I actually caught a fish on the other side of the dam, and all of a sudden, all hell broke loose. These two trees started shaking, and this noise that you could have put every animal in a zoo in, making it at the same time, you could not replicate this thing. This was like chest pounding, standing in front of a concert bass speaker. So I'm trying to paddle backwards. He's trying to paddle forwards. And I was like, no, this isn't happening. I said, you want to go in? We'll spin it around. So these trees were huge, and they were shaking like crazy. They were like a snow globe. And we backed out. We were out, I don't know, about 80 yards or so, 90 yards. And the yell, the growl, the howl, whatever you wanted to call it, it was still so loud and so pounding against you that we went way out. Yeah, we didn't even want to go back to shore. And unfortunately, we had to go camping on the same side that this thing was on. So needless to say, when we finally got to the campsite, we just kind of chilled out. We didn't move too much, And we had something to talk about, but I don't think we slept at all. We went back the following year, and we went into this exact same spot, and we went and looked at those trees. Those trees were at least 8 inches in diameter, and had to be at least 10 feet apart from each other. You couldn't put your hands on them. That's how, they had to be at least 10 feet.
And they didn't grow that wide, over a year. So it was solid tree. Both of them. The whole forest canopy it's the Adirondacks. You know how thick it is in there. and it's dark. So that when those trees started shaking, like you said, it looked like, it was a hot summer day too. And it was no wind, no nothing.
Yeah.
And we were casting over the beaver dam.
It was the best bass fishing day I ever had.
When those things, there's another story.
Do you guys remember the county that was in?
It was in the Floodwood region.
County? I think it's,
I don't know.
Herkimer?
Herkimer?
I think, no, I'm not sure. It's the Adirondack Park.
Up behind Paul Reed. Was it Paul Smith's? Paul Smith's school? The college?
Okay, gotcha. Now I know. Yep.
Okay.
That way.
So we were way out.
Yep.
We were way out. We were out in the Long Mountain, way out.
You got to understand that that you guys may not know the Adirondacks as well as I do. The Adirondacks has about 7 or 8 different counties that it covers.
Yeah.
You know.
Is it Lewis County, maybe?
A what?
It's out behind Paul Reed Smith or Paul Smith. That's where it was.
It's just outside of the St. Regis Wilderness Canoe Wilderness.
Okay, so that's Delaware. That sounds like Delaware County.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
Okay.
Yep.
Body of water.
Yeah, that's
Well, either way, it started shaking up there, and the tree started shaking, and like you said, the noise was just, I don't even know how to describe it. It was just sort of unruly, loud growl, roar thing, and you could feel it like you were in a concert. And
we never
went on for 10 or 15 minutes, maybe. Didn't have a watch, didn't have a phone, nothing.
And
just
you felt that in your chest.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's one of them. When you started saying that bass rumble, chest rumbling.
Yeah.
And we were that far out in the boat.
That is the most. Yeah,
Sorry,
that's the most common. That's the most common explanation of what people are hearing is this thing that vibrates their chest.
There's no doubt. It kind of like hits you.
Absolutely. And we never put the two together. And then we heard other people talking about their sightings, and we started reading some different things about Bigfooting. And then we got involved with John in Squatchdetective, and Tim did Nezra for a while, and then we started putting the pieces together. So then when we went out, we knew when we heard something. We could put the sound to it, or at least try to put the sound to something that we know what was out there. I mean, when you're spending that much time for that many years out in the woods, you know the difference between wildlife.
Yeah. So
this wasn't a bear.
Just a couple of quick comments here. DM Zabo, hello, one of our channel members, snuck in late, but that's okay. Better late than never. And Alex Petikoff, hello, Alex. Yells out, hey guys, from your neighbor to the north, New Hampshire, all the Squatchdetective crew is awesome. And Mike says, yep, Nezra old school. And
Nezra was just kind of, we were kind of the end of Nezra, and I wasn't in it very long. I was just kind of talking with the guys there, really. Wasn't really a member. I was just basically talking, kind of checking it out, getting some information, trying to figure out what we heard down in New York.
I was the caretaker for the place where they wanted to go, and he calls me up and says, "Hey, I got a few people that want to come up and go out and go looking for Bigfoot." I said, "You got what?"
What?
I said, "You got what?" I says, okay, come on up.
Yeah, I put together a thing. It was, I just wanted to get together with some Bigfoot people. So there was a guy, Dax.
Yeah.
He showed
Dax
up.
Rushlow, yep.
Yeah, Dave McCullough.
Yep.
And then there was Kevin. There was another guy, Kevin. And then John showed up the next day. And that's kind of started the whole thing. That's kind of when I knew I went off the edge and into the deep end and kind of knew I was believing in something out there.
No turning back now.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
when you guys first had that audio encounter and you saw those trees shaking, I mean, you didn't actually see the creature though, right? You just saw the tree shaking and then had the audio.
No, I couldn't paddle back. I couldn't paddle backwards fast enough anyways.
Yeah,
I can understand
having
that.
said that, in Monday morning quarterback in that situation, it was
Thank you to Rowdy Route. Real quick, thank you to Rowdy Route, our newest member.
All right, excellent. When we were fishing over the beaver dam kind of came around and it tapered back into the stream. Right. And so now thinking about what was going on, we believe we interrupted them fishing. We think that they cornered there's a beaver dam and there's fish in there and all they, you see those casts that Dave McCullough has with the hands. You imagine something with mitts like that. It's like a fishing net. Right. And you get 4 of those down in this little narrow creek, and you might be able to catch something. And here
I just wanted one of the 5 that he had. That's all I wanted.
Now I'm gonna throw a teaser out there to the crew, out there to our family listening, our great audience, is that we do have some evidence pictures that we'll be showing in a little bit that the gentlemen have uncovered. And I've taken a look at the foot castings personally, and what the other item they're going to show, and I don't want to give that away just yet, but quite impressive. I must say, quite impressive. There is no disputing that it is either it's definitely not a misidentification. It's either the real thing or somebody's joshing with you, but I think it's the prior, not the latter. So that'll be really, really cool. And I apologize if some people are having some buffering issues, but everything here is working very smoothly tonight. Knock wood. I gotta knock wood here,
Just hang in there.
Yeah, right.
I wanted to ask the guys, after they had that encounter and they heard that loud noise, when you guys went to your campsite that night, I mean, were you talking back and forth like, what the hell was that? What could that have been? Or was you like, oh, that was Bigfoot? Or
no, we didn't even. I thought it sounded like I don't even know what it sounded like. We were kind of thinking it was a bear or maybe a mountain lion, but it didn't sound like that. But it was big. It was the tone. Yeah. You could just tell it was a massive, whatever it was, had a big chest.
But at the time, we did not know.
Yeah, we weren't even thinking.
Yeah, we weren't even thinking Bigfoot.
We were just
trying to wait for daylight to come.
Trying to figure out what made that noise.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that noise, as a ranger, I've had dozens of bear encounters, and I'm not bragging. That's the way it is. You have a ton of them. And every last one of them have run and gone away from it. Every last one of them. This thing stuck around, shook trees aggressively, threw stuff in the lake, and made such a loud, aggressive noise that we actually paddled further in the lake because I thought it was coming out. At that point, I got nervous, and we paddled deeper into the water so that we could get away from whatever might be rushing into it. And nothing ever came out, and the noise still happened. It had to be, I'm going to go with 10 minutes. And we just sat there listening and watching. And it was one localized area right near the not the confluence, but where the beaver dam kind of tapered. And it was right there, and those trees were shaking like heck.
Right. And whatever it wasn't intimidated by you. It was more or less, it was trying to intimidate you.
Yeah, I believe
it worked.
And that's why I think now, Monday morning quarterback, and I think potentially they were in there fishing. Yeah. I say they because 2 trees were shaking like crazy. And if it was one, man, it had to be massive. But, I'm just saying there were 2 trees shaking, and they were almost 10 feet apart, and they were almost 8 inches in diameter.
Yep.
Yeah. So take it for what it is. And they were shaking like they were in a snow globe. And the noise was ungodly. It was just, you just never even heard it. I can't even describe. No. It's very difficult. Let's put it that way. It was a loud growl thing.
But I understand. Yeah. What got us started. That kicked it into gear. Yeah. And then from there,
let me just shout out and recognize another new member tonight, Brian Barber. Thank you, Brian.
Welcome. Thank you, Brian.
So the family grows.
Yeah, I saw that green pop up over there while we were talking. I said, welcome, Brian.
Yeah, so when we were finished with it, you know, with that experience, and it kind of settled down and it just quieted up, we fished around an island. We were actually fishing for dinner, and the fishing was so good in that little area that it was just about catching fish at that point. We were fly fishing, and it just turned into an experience. And so we went around this island and headed back to our campsite. And like you said, we talked a little bit about it, but for the most part, it was kind of unnerving because we didn't know how to identify it. And we're only a couple hundred yards down the riverbank from it, you know, and it's like, oh boy. So it was a very unsettling night for sure. And we're experienced.
Do you hear any odd noises that night? I mean, did anything come around bother you? Or no?
Not a thing. That was it was a good thing, but it was that was an odd thing because I thought for sure we were going to have something.
We had a fire out, you know, for the most part, but it was
it was different. It stayed right where it was. It didn't come. It never crossed across and came towards us.
Or it did whatever it did because it didn't bother us. That was the last experience we had with it. And it was a windy crossing backwards, and we almost got blown into a cliff. But
did you guys build a campfire that night?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we did. It's, you know, the pine forest. It's a boreal pine forest, so there's a ton of firewood in there, and it's real dark. I mean, it gets 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock at night, and it's dark.
Yeah.
You need your headlamp. So if anybody out there knows what I'm talking about, and if they've been out there, then they've seen it, you know, the darkness. And it was a couple hundred feet in, not even that, 50 feet in, and you couldn't see anything.
Right.
It's kind of like when you have a moose turn around and walk into the woods and all of a sudden it disappears. You know, 8-foot moose with a rack. Poof.
Noreen says he didn't want you taking his fish.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly what we're thinking.
It was the best fishing day I had.
Yeah, we're casting over there, and I do believe we interrupted it.
Yeah,
fishing.
Yeah,
because that was the only reason why it would. I'm trying to think, why would it be there? The same reason why we were there. It was fishing, unless it was coincidentally just walking through, and we happened to be there. The only other thing was that there was a fishing opportunity where that creek narrowed, and his big mitts or her big mitts was able to catch something, and that was dinner. And we were interrupting, and they were not happy, and they let us know it.
And you know, the funny thing is like, you guys are not what we all call flatlanders. You guys know the forests. You guys have encountered bear and other wild animal in the, you know, being guides and all, and you know, especially being a ranger now. So you guys are really good at interpreting, hey, what is the norm versus what isn't the norm. And I wonder how many hunters out there truly that, oh, I've never seen a Bigfoot before, but they've heard stuff similar to you and they just explained it off as, you know, whatever it was.
Right.
You know, right.
Exactly.
Now let's talk about, you guys said you've had a Class A sighting, which is a visual.
Yes.
So,
yes, it was.
So I guess it's, you know, yep. Time to take over.
2016.
Yep. BFRO
was our expedition that we had in 2016. There were about 15 of us with the BFRO expedition. We started out here at the camp. We were getting
was in Massachusetts.
This is here in Massachusetts.
Yeah. It's in June.
Yeah, it was June.
It was raining.
Yeah, it rained for the whole weekend. And Saturday night, it kind of let up. So we went out to this, there's a huge field that up at the camp here. And they were all getting used to the FLIRs. So we turned around, and it started out as just relaxing, getting used to everything. And we gave this FLIR to this gentleman who, him and I were standing there, and his son was looking at a mouse. We're running around this tree base with the FLIR, and his father and I were standing there. And we looked to our right across this big field, and we're looking. And I've been here for years, I'm looking across the field and I see this orange ball about the size of a beach ball in the air. And I looked over at the gentleman beside me, and he knows what he's looking at, because he looks over at me and he looks back at that, and we watch this thing just kind of go up in the air and disappear. So the very next day, we didn't say anything to each other. We know what we saw. So the very next day, we were out, we're riding around, we're looking for a place to go. John's taking us out to Savoy, and it was raining. And everybody was kind of like, I don't want to get out. It was raining. But he pulled into this one spot. He said, well, I got one last shot. Let's try this. So we went into this spot, and some of us got out, some of us didn't. The ones that didn't get out, they were sadly loosened that day for not getting out of the car and coming out in the rain. Everything was super quiet. We go out into the woods. We get to where we want to go. We're about, I don't know, a couple hundred yards out into the woods. And we had two gentlemen come up from behind us because they lagged behind. They like to watch the group as they're walking to see if anything's looking. And he comes up and he says, hey, I've got knocks back here, or knocks or whistles back here. And we said, oh, really? So they turned around and started walking backwards. We kind of spread out a little bit. This other gentleman and his son come back, and they have the recorder, and they said, hey, we have whistles up here. So we just kind of all dispersed. All 15 of us now just kind of dispersed out into the woods. We're about within 100-yard area, I would say, and we're just kind of semicircled. And we're standing there, we're looking, but everything is dead quiet because it's been raining. Foggy. And and you can actually hear the raindrops coming off of the leaves that were coming out. So we're standing there, and I've got an orange rain jacket. Everybody else, I believe, was in like a dark colored rain jacket. So I turned around and I kind of bent down. I'm a hunter, and I wanted to see if I could see leg movements, and I couldn't see anything. And when I stood up, I looked into my right, and I says, what is this? To myself, I'm saying, what is this? This big black thing standing there. So I'm standing there, and I watched this. I bent over, I leaned over, so I thought maybe I could see around the leaves or a stick or something. And this thing leaned. And I went, what? And when I stood up, it stood up. I went, oh my God. I said, there it is. Well, the gentleman that was to my right, John, was over to my right, and there was a gentleman right in between us with the GoPro. The two of us came into the exact same frame at the exact same time from two different directions. Yeah. It was crazy because he saw part of it, and I saw the upper half of it. And we went right there. We went right over to it. They were all standing there, and it was gone. It was just gone. And we looked around. We were looking for prints. We couldn't find anything. I said, wow. I says, I can't believe this. I says, what was that? So, unfortunately, my brother Tim wasn't with me. And normally, him and I are together for everything Bigfooting. I said, I can't believe he's not here, and I actually saw this thing.
Yep, I was working.
So, yeah, he was working. So I turned around.
Oh, man.
We came back the very next day. I said, you got to come back with me. Yep. So me, him, and John are going back.
It's John Wilk.
John Wilk. Yep. And we're going back. And as we get there, we get screamed at from the top of the hill. They must have been warning them that we were on our way back. This was so unbelievably loud. Yeah, and unfortunately, John was driving, so he really didn't hear it. I was in the front, Tim was behind me, and we was on that right-hand side.
And it's not just
it wasn't just a yell.
It was a long, sustained scream. It was like a very long, sustained scream is the way to describe it.
It was definitely a warning sound.
Yes, it was definitely not a good thing.
So we went back out there. We get all the way out to where we had this encounter, and we walk over to where I walk over to where I was standing. I brought my rangefinder with me, and
thank you.
I brought the rangefinder with me. I'm looking through the rangefinder, and it was 40 yards away. I said, Tim, I said, go down. I'll tell you when to stop. So he goes down the 40 yards. I tell him to move over to the right. Stop. There's a big tree here. I says, reach up as high as you can and then take the ruler and go up with it. So he takes the ruler and he's going up. He's going up. I said, a little bit higher. I said, okay, stop right there. He goes, it was almost what, 9 feet tall?
9 feet tall.
Yeah.
About 4 feet wide.
About the size of a sheet of
Yeah,
plywood.
it was like looking at a piece of plywood.
Big guy.
And it was just gone. So we walked around this tree that was laying there, and there was this moss there, and there was this print, plain as day. It was 17 and a half inches long, 9.5 inches wide. That's the yellow one that you have.
Is that the one? Is that the one with the stick in it, or?
It's the yellow one. Yes, in the heel. Yeah.
All right.
But
so what's?
That's a huge print. No, it's the other two. Yeah, it's a huge print. He's going to dig it out.
Are those the ones?
No, that's the other one. Yeah, that's the one. Here's this one here.
These were cast in dental stone. That's why it's yellow.
Right.
The date was June 14th, 2016. It was cast at 2:30 p.m. Savoy State Forest. John Wilk and myself and Eric were there, and
you can almost see it.
Hang on, I'm gonna try to get us to a.
There you go.
There you go.
Oh,
Right there. It's a little better here. You can see the heel. This is the indent, or the depression of the heel.
Right.
Yeah. And there's the shape of the foot in here. You can see. The toes were kind of in the track. The toe was actually up against the root. The toes were up against the root of a tree, and you could see the toes in the root. It actually kind of broke out where the toes were, and the root was rotted, so it just kind of pulled the bark off, but they wouldn't come off of here, so that it didn't come off of the track.
That gentleman
what the dimensions again?
It's 17 and a half by, they're about 17 and a half by 9.5.
Yeah, we can get the tape.
There were two tracks. The other one was 7 feet away, and it's the ball of the foot. And what it did was when it took the step, it stepped and hit the root.
Yeah.
There was a root in front of the toes, and you could actually see the bark taken off of the root.
Right.
But naturally, you can't cast, the root scrape.
Right.
So.
Right.
So this here would be the ball of the foot, and it's a push-off. Basically, it's a push-off. And the reason why we took it, even though it's just a little, yeah, right, dude, it's just a little dent in the dirt or something. Well, the reason why I did it is because it shows the depth, which would confirm the weight of the object making the same.
Yeah.
This is the heel strike. There's the toe push-off.
They're both at the same depth, 4 inches.
So the same thing, 7 feet away, landed and made that depth the same here.
Yeah.
So this was a heel strike. You can imagine this thing taking off. It's a heel strike. It's a big, heavy heel hit. And then the next one is a toe push, or the ball of the foot push off, when they're 7 feet away. So it's pretty cool. And casts, unfortunately, that's full of substrate and it's moss and there's pine needles and there was sticks and all kinds of stuff in there. So you don't get some of the definition you'd like to see.
Yeah.
But that's a fact. That's a real cast, and that comes right after his story. And John Wilk and him both seen it, and 14 other people that witnessed Class B experiences within this experience.
It's amazing that out of the two that see it, it's John and I, and we were actually putting on the expedition. But there were 15 people there, and we were the only two that saw it. It was crazy.
And Rowdy, that answer would be yes. They did actually see. Eric did see the Bigfoot that made. Yeah.
Yep, I did. And when I walked away from it, people say, well, you don't believe it because you're like, what is that? And in my mind, I'm going through every single animal that I can possibly think of. Yeah. And I says, man, I have been in the woods forever. And it was nothing that I saw before. Right. I wish I had gotten a clearer look, but I saw the head. I saw the outline from the head to the shoulders and down to about the waist. And then it just kind of turned and it was gone. And the two guys that were coming in behind us never saw it. And it was going in the same direction that they were coming, but they never saw it. But those two tracks came out of there.
That's one thing that differentiates a sighting. Like a lot of people think that, they just saw a black bear standing up or something. But the shoulders, that black bear doesn't have shoulders that's going to stick out like that.
No. And this looked like looking at a sheet of plywood. That's all I can describe it as, with just rounded shoulders. Right. It was crazy. Because I thought, I always say I'll never see anything. And here I am. And there it is.
Yeah, a lot of times it's not your choice.
Yeah, and I just happened to turn.
Right.
Because they said they heard knocking and whistles to the left of us. So they went in there with the GoPro and they were looking around. And then this thing was to the right, maybe 40 yards from where they heard the knocking. But we never saw it. We never heard it. Of course, it did rain. Everything was kind of quiet. But it was like boom, boom, and there it was.
Well, the whistles is something that I've always been interested in too. Did you get a chance to hear any of those whistles they were talking about that night? Or have you heard the whistles?
No, I didn't hear the whistles. No, because they were inside. So I believe, to this day, there had to have been, it was a family, I think. Mm-hmm. And I think we caught one of them in the middle. That's why the guy heard him making the noises behind us, and they heard the noises in the front, and we got the one that was in the middle. And he didn't know which way to go. So he just stood there. Yeah. And I just happened to turn around, and John caught him from one angle, and I caught it from a different angle. And it was like, there it is. And the guy with the GoPro, when people say, how come everything is blurry, you can't get a picture? This guy standing there, and where's the Bigfoot? Behind the tree that's in front of the GoPro. Mm-hmm. So he never got it.
Oh, yeah.
So Rowdy asks, because I think he kind of missed that part, was what did it look like exactly in your best word or description?
It was dark. I would say black. It was just an oval head, kind of, down to some shoulders, went out about 4 feet and down.
And I want to throw out a hello to Arkansas as well, with Unidentified Arkansas Phenomenon. Welcome. Hopefully you'll subscribe to the channel.
Good to see you.
And
I wasn't lucky enough to see facial features or any of that. But it was dark, and when it teeter-tottered with me, that was just dumbfounding to me. I couldn't believe it. I said, it's mimicking me.
Right. I was going to say, do you think it was mimicking you? And obviously
because I leaned because I thought I could see something different. And actually I couldn't see anything different. Right. It was still the same size, still the same color.
Well, it was probably doing the same thing to look at you, probably. Yeah. Get a better look at you.
Mick says that Savoy's only 2 hours, almost directly south of you. Almost.
Savoy is
southwest, southeast of me, actually. The south of me is Rensselaer County, and south of that is Columbia County, and south of that is Ulster County. But it's a little bit to the west of me as well. But Brian Barber says, we always wish for a clear look. I've had a couple of close sightings, and the adrenaline and shock of something so massive, indescribably massive, has us stunned. Agreed with that.
That's true.
Plus, it was raining and foggy.
Don Fuller says, do these guys know the park ranger who had the Bigfoot taking the garbage in Massachusetts?
Sure
Yes, that was John Will.
That's John Will.
If it's the same story, that's John Will.
So, can you relay that
his
story?
It was the very same area. John's happened years and years before this, when he was 19, 20 years old or something like that.
Gotta be.
It was a while ago. I'm not gonna, anyways, it was a while ago. And then we had the experience.
Come on, let's face it, fellas. Let's face it. We're all old. You, me, Chris, John, we're all old.
We are that.
So in 16, Eric and John had that with the BFRO expedition. And then just recently in 22, Eric and I went back, and that's where the new recent casts come from. Same area, but we'll get to that later. So there's a super history that this area has, dating way back to the large hairy man when the CCC camps were building this place, and they wanted the workers to go out to and rebuild the road or something, and they said, no, the big hairy man's out there. We're not going out there.
John Will tells that story great.
Yeah, so the park ranger, if it's the same one, it would be John Will's story.
So,
so
Rowdy
asks,
Rowdy again asks, and Rowdy's got a ton of questions tonight, so
that's
good for
right.
him.
That's good.
Also, what were the sounds you guys heard other than people in your party?
Whistling and knocks. That was it. It was just a couple of knocks and a couple of whistles, and then it was done. There was no banging. There was no growls. There was no nothing.
What was the, I wasn't there, so that's a good question. What was the volume
of
that? Wow. Little, like
the knock came from the up in front, and the gentleman in front are him and his son are the ones that heard that.
All right.
Okay. So so we had noises behind, noises in the front. So the rest of us just walked into the woods to see what we could see. And that's when everything just kind of went haywire. I mean, we interrupted something for sure. And, that's why I'm figuring there had to be at least 3. And they were trying to warn each other that we were there, but we just happened to get lucky enough to catch the one that was in the middle. That's the way I'm looking at it.
Yeah, timing would indicate other things going on at the same time this thing is standing there.
Brian says we're all like fine wine. We're getting better with age. He saw his first Bigfoot at 16, now looking for them at 52. Well, good for you.
There you go.
Like to hear your story too, Brian.
They're there.
Seen one at 16.
Yeah.
They're there. But that's what those casts came from. And that was my Class A sighting. And there is a GoPro video out there. I'm going to try to get my hands on it and maybe go through it and see what's on it. Maybe I'll get lucky and find something else.
Steve, you're muted, bud.
Yeah.
So tell us about the juveniles. We got those tracks. Let's talk about
those are the white ones that you had up there.
Yeah.
Right.
That's Labor Day.
That's tell us the background.
Day, 22. It had been raining. It seemed like all this.
It's been in the rain.
We get rain and there's water in there too.
This was back up. This was back up to where we were in Savoy.
Yeah. So, anyways, it's raining.
Not to interrupt, but there's not to interrupt. I know there's a little bit of a lag sometimes, so somebody will come up with a real good question.
Yep.
And
just put your hand up and I'll answer you.
Did anybody notice any odors?
No, none. No, because I think that was because of the rain.
We have experienced the odors in October Mountain.
Yes.
During
that was a whole nother experience.
That was video. We were flaring, and it's another BFRO expedition, and this thing is 100 yards away. We went back the next day with the rangefinder, and it's pacing. We called it the pacing Bigfoot. It was pacing back and forth on this long ash tree that had fallen, and it's probably 80, 90 feet long. So it was just pacing back and forth. And we're all sitting there stunned. It's kind of drizzly, raining, looking across the water. And in FLIR, you got this huge figure going back and forth 4 or 5 times. And then finally somebody says, are you recording it? And during this same time, Chuck had mentioned, hey, can you smell that? Can you smell it? And that's it. He brought it to our attention, and all of a sudden, yeah, there it was. It was that funky, nasty gym bag odor kind of wet dog stuff.
It was a musky smell for sure.
Yeah, another kind of hard thing to describe. It was kind of a whole bunch of, it was off, it was just an odor. But that was a whole different time. The other tracks came from Savoy. It was Labor Day. It rained 4 or 5 days. And
again, hate to interrupt.
All right.
Was anybody taking audio when you guys heard those noises, those whistles or tree knocks? Did anybody get those on audio?
To be honest, I'm not sure if they made it to the GoPro or not. I've never heard anything about it.
No,
so I couldn't tell you.
And I know the GoPros don't have the greatest audio in them as well.
But other than that, no, there weren't any microphones or any of that stuff.
Right, no. And it was raining, and the rain, the rain in those recordings.
Definitely, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
the droplets coming off of the trees is loud enough.
Because Eric and I did it during these Juvenile tracks. We were recording the knocks, what we were listening to, and the rock throwing, and then we played it back, and it just sounded like rain. It was, I wasn't gonna.
I'd like to get to this Juvenile story, but so many questions are popping up now. Is Mr. Federal, Mr. 2505 Federal, one of our members, asks Bridgewater Triangle in the area?
No, completely the other side of the state. Yeah. We're in Western Mass. Bridgewater Triangle's out towards Boston.
Yeah, the eastern end.
Did the Rowdy asked the guy with the GoPro spin around after you said there was a Bigfoot and get any video evidence, trees, height, etc.?
I don't know. To be honest, I haven't seen the video yet. I've been trying to get a hold of the video, but I was told that there was one. But
now this was on a BFRO expedition, correct?
Yes, it was. Right.
So this guy might have. He wasn't a regular. He was just like there for the expedition.
Yeah, customer.
So
but I don't even know if it worked. I mean, for all I know, the thing could have, like everything else, nothing came up.
Right.
Well, so it could have just been blank. Maybe he didn't push the button. Who knows?
That's the thing about being on expedition with somebody else that's using a camera. Okay, they get something different than you get, but a lot of guys, for some reason, don't like to share that stuff.
Or they just don't want to get involved. They don't want to. Yeah, they don't want to get involved for sure.
Right.
They'll pay on a nice mission where they go anonymously, but never in public.
Right. But that's all right. Everybody does their own thing.
So, finding a trackway asked, what about whispers? Did you guys hear any,
No, we didn't hear
it was raining out, yeah.
Right, we didn't hear any, raining, yes, but we didn't hear any, really, it was very quick between the time they came up and told us about the knocking and the clacking or whatever they were having behind us, and then the knocks and the whistles in the front. It was boom, boom, done. When we all walked out there, and we just kind of stood there, and that's when we saw it. And even I don't think we said anything until after we saw it. And then by then, I don't know how many people turned, or I don't know how many people were actually looking, but I mean, it was there and then it wasn't there. So even if they were looking, they might not even have saw it, because we asked and everybody else said, no, they didn't see anything.
From the different locations, it seemed like they were maybe moving away from you guys. Like they had heard the group or something. It was kind of like moving away, trying to.
Well, that area is pretty heavily wooded as well.
It's a really nice.
Everybody's
place.
Got a different angle. There's a tree in your way.
Right.
A laurel bush or something.
But the Bigfoot's coming towards us. I think that they were coming towards us through this plush forest, and it's quiet. But we were talking and whatnot. And I think when they heard us, I think they just instinct pulled them apart, and we're coming down the middle. And the other one was just standing there and going, oh boy.
And how quick was this sighting that you had?
It was, I bet you, well, teeter-tottering with it and standing there and looking at each other, I think I'd say 20 seconds.
So not very. It was quick.
It wasn't very long, but it was long enough for me to know what I was looking at.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure. Matt, who's a big video guy and audio guy, says you have to work that stuff up front. We do. Yeah, I mean, then again, when it's not your show and you're pretty new at it, stuff happens. I remember my very first track I found. You think I had plaster with me? No. So when you're new, and you're relative, this is relatively, being new at this,
and
that happens.
You're thinking you're in the presence of Bigfoot, for God's sakes. It kind of freaks you out for a moment,
So the way to circumvent that is always keep a recorder going.
Yes.
And that is something that I do now. And I've caught some very interesting things too. Like there was, I was up in the eastern Adirondacks and with tactical Bigfoot research and an actual scientist. And I left a recorder out on my vehicle, on top of my vehicle, and we walked into our campsite, and we were trying to provoke some calls, and we didn't hear anything. Play back the audio, and we got something coming from the other direction, which completely in the other direction that we completely missed. So, and again, you learn very quickly.
And we
can only go back in time.
We started off cheap and that cheap doesn't really get you anywhere. So you got to pay some money to get some decent stuff. Right. And then you put it out there in the woods. And so now when we go out, we're on point. We've got our gear, we've got our listening, we're set up for it now. In the past it was, well, geez, I hope he brings his recorder and it was, stuff like that. It's just,
I have a question at me. What type of brand recorder do you use and recommend? I use the Zoom H2N recorder.
Definitely not a jazzy.
Yeah. Not a jazzy cam. But for an audio recorder, I use the Zoom H2 or the Zoom H2N. I have one of each. The H2N is the newer version. And quite frankly, it's a lot easier to operate than the older version. So if I want one to get banged up, I use the... although you look at my H2N, it's pretty banged up. But
a lot of miles.
I think so.
Yeah, if we could go back in time and do things differently, boy, the world would be a wonderful place,
Yes, it would be. I'll agree to that. We've had people.
So let me just address something real quick, guys. So this is the Doubting Debbie in the audience, and yes, you are Raptor, a Doubting Debbie, and this is a multiple witness encounter. From two. Is, stop being a Doubting Debbie. I don't even know why you would be in the Bigfoot world if you're going to doubt every single story. Don't you think I kind of vet these things? So, yes, I do. And guess what? Guess what? After talking to people about events and stuff like that, remember, I'm a trained forensic interviewer. So, I
look at it this way. I've got nothing to gain.
Yeah. Yeah, this is not like this was, blast or anything like that.
Yeah, I've got nothing to gain by telling you a story that isn't true. Because I'll tell this story to the day they put me in the ground, and my story will never change. Because it was that influential to me that I'll never forget it. I can walk you into that spot to the very rock that I stood on today. And that was back in 2016. Yeah. And I can take you right back to the exact same spot. I've done it many a times. I know, I know what I saw. I can't turn somebody that doesn't believe will never believe. You got to take it for face value.
Do you ever make a trip in there on the anniversary of your sighting?
I have tried, but you don't need any special date.
So, Rowdy, let me just clarify that Tim was not on that expedition. He had to work. So that's why his brother did not hear anything, because he was at work completely miles away. Unless it was really loud.
That's the first time that him and I
was there
really haven't done it.
I was there the day after, and I found the foot track.
Yeah,
I found the foot.
He walked right into it,
and it was just as clear as day, right there in front of me. And that's the cast that we poured there. Of course, you look at the cast and okay, but as we were. It was
let me remind you, too, folks, that these guys don't normally broadcast their sightings, their events, any of this stuff. Right. I heard of their encounters. I've seen their evidence. I've actually looked and handled their tracks. And I'm pretty sharp at looking at what is hoaxed and what is not, and what is what is real and what is not, what's misidentified and what is not. And I'm pretty confident about the tracks. And I asked them to come on the show. It's not like they said, "Hey, can we be on your show?" So understand that as well. That this was me asking them to come on the show. And when you come into the chat and start kind of disrespecting that and trying to suggest there's motives or anything like that, not that you're saying there was motives, because you haven't said that, but for people who think there's motives, there was no motive there. This isn't a show where people say, "Hey, I want to go on your show. I have this amazing sighting." Right? This is the type of show where I hear about somebody taking a sighting and I ask them.
And we can actually review the evidence, and it's evidence that we like.
Correct. And we're able to at least have some validation. And look, this is not. Hold on a second. I'm just gonna hide you guys for one quick. Sure. Let's pretend that the Vogel brothers are not on camera. Okay, and it's just voices saying they're the Vogel brothers. Well, that's what you get on a lot of other podcasts, isn't it?
Right.
Right. We have video here. These are real people explaining stuff that they've encountered, and they've been vetted. So.
Yeah, it's the truth.
So,
and there's also a lot of good research if you listen in, and you can pick up on, like, after the sighting, they went back and did a follow-up.
They went back. They check for size, and that's one up on what a lot of other people have done in the past as well. Like you'll hear about, and that's not saying that these guys are Bigfoot researchers. So, even though they were green at the time, they still went back and did a lot of due diligence that a lot of green researchers forget to do or won't do.
We have plenty of time sitting in the woods listening to nothing. Most of the time, it's just the woods. It's crickets and whatever's happening in the woods. Never hear this stuff. Once in a blue moon, and we've been very fortunate, but we're involved, so we go to where people are talking, and so if you put yourself in that environment and there's people telling you that, hey, we just were up there a couple days ago and this happened. Well, it would behoove you to get up there as soon as you can to try to maybe catch that evidence or see the evidence or, whatever that is. The rain will wash the track away or any of that. So, we do our due diligence when we get a report off UFO or something.
And you know what? That's the one thing I don't think Raptor understood necessarily, that this is how we get our witness guests on the show. And a lot of time it's not them asking me to come on the show or I have this incredible story, I need to tell it. No, it's me saying, wow, I've heard your story. I've looked at this. I've known about your story for, since the day one, because I have been, hanging out with the Squatch guys for many years, even before you guys came on board. And I know John knows what he saw too.
Sure.
So it's not like this is very well vetted that this occurred. You know, we've kind of gone through the gambit of, and believe me, I'm sure Eric and John had a long discussion about this afterwards to make sure they weren't misidentifying. That's why they go back and they measure and they do stuff like that. They found tracks, and you know what you suggest about the tracks is that somebody was out there in a costume, maybe, and because you said first, they're stompers. Well, that's amazing because you only caught that on the video for that very brief few seconds. And I myself have actually looked at it, handled it, and saw it with my own eyes. So, there's a big difference. Yep. And I ain't no fool.
No, it's all legit. I mean, the whole fake stuff. I'm not going down that road.
Yeah, you know,
I don't waste my time.
Yeah, right. I was just gonna say I don't have the time to put the energy into that. You know, to tell you to make it fake. I don't have the energy to do that. It's just not worth my time. We have spent way too much time in the woods.
Yep.
Like I said, doing our job and everything else, and spending it going out and trying to pull out evidence and going all through New England.
Yep.
Most of the time, it's easier to tell you what it wasn't.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you know, here's the thing. You know, Mike Young, welcome, Mike. Hopefully you'll stick around with the channel. Subscribe if you haven't. We have a lot of good times here. I was with the Vogels on October Mountain. You could smell my Squatch on the other side of the mountain like a burned skunk smell lamp. And Brian Barber makes a great point. Costumes making tracks don't account for the depth of the track and the weight to make it.
Thank you.
Is a very, very good point.
That's huge. That's huge.
That is a huge track. 17.5 inches long, 9.5 inches wide is a big foot.
That's a big boy.
He was big. 9 feet. I can only imagine the weight.
Yep.
And that's why those tracks were so deep.
Yep. Now, let's get back to the pacing Sasquatch, the juveniles. Let's go back to, let's start that story over. Let's move on from this one.
That was another BFRO expedition, October Mountain State Forest. It's late at night. I don't know, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, somewhere in there.
Give or take.
It's late. These expeditions go for 4 days. The first day is kind of a meet and greet. There's some trainings that go on so that we can introduce different how we use our FLIRs, how to use the FLIRs, how to make a track, just a bunch of different stuff, so that when we do go out, everybody's on the same page. Different things like that. And we ended up at Sanderson Brook Falls in one place and October Mountain in another. And we happened to go to October Mountain that one night and walked up to the pond that we were going to and just started flaring, nothing out of the norm, nothing out of the regular. And all of a sudden, one of the guys says, "Hey, look over there, check it out." So there's 3 or 4 flares, maybe 5 flares in the group. And we're all looking at this thing now, pacing back and forth on this log. We didn't know there was a log. We found that the following day.
Right.
We just knew this thing was going back and forth effortlessly. And we couldn't figure out why, because it's a big swamp. It's all swamp and a tall grass. So this thing's going back and forth, back and forth. And then Chuck tells us, "Hey, do you smell that?" And as Mike pointed out, he thought it was a skunky smell. It was, it was off. It was any number of those gym bag.
Yeah,
it was off. It was a
musky smell.
Yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah.
And then it was gone. We'll leave it there.
When we came back that night, we actually plugged that FLIR in.
Patrick,
we put it on a laptop. And you literally could watch it go back and forth. And then when we went to replay it, it was a blob squatcher.
No, mind you, it was 100 yards. These are TK Scouts, I believe.
And that was right at the limit.
That's a big ask for the TK Scout.
TK Scout, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, 100 yards is really pushing it. But.
So you could see it, but it didn't record. The pixelization was too much.
Yeah.
A lot of people wanted me to put it out there on Facebook and stuff like that. And I said, no, dude. I says, that's just bull. I mean,
Yeah.
I know what it was because I was there. And we even took casts of that one as well.
Yes, we did.
That was worse because it came in real tall grass and it was crappy cast. But, you know, it was just one of those things. It was not definitive. There was way too much controversy just on our own two behalves. I said, no way, dude. We ain't putting this out there.
There was 5 people that saw that.
Oh, yeah.
And you
it
see,
was clear, you know, doing the whole paddy walk and everything.
That speaks to your credibility. Is that I'm not going to put this blobby video out here, this TK Scout, because it's not really going to prove anything. It's only going to get criticism, and it's not really. It's so. Yeah, exactly, and that is, it's okay to show amongst your fellow researchers in private.
Right, because that's how we learn.
Right.
This would have been one of those videos that you say, okay, don't publish this video seriously.
But take a look at it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
take a look at it. Take a look for yourself, you know, being one researcher to another. You don't want to throw out to the public because it just, it was too pixel.
Because people don't understand that in science and even investigations, which investigation is a science in of itself, really. Yeah. You'll pass things around to other investigators. Hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And you may not necessarily pass it off as your final report, but you'll throw it out there to get a consensus on it. You know, and what should we do with it? Is this something we're going to use or something we're going to? We'll put that aside because it really doesn't prove enough that we're looking to prove.
Right. You know, that was a BFRO expedition, but we've been up there a couple times.
Oh yeah.
I think Dave and John were with us.
We had a good one. Yes. John was asked to take some people out one time, Bigfooting. So he said, okay. He calls us up to say, come on, we got some people to take out Bigfooting. I said, all right. So we went up there to the exact same spot where we were.
Other side of the pond.
I stayed on the dam side of the pond. They all started to walk around. They got about, I don't know, a couple hundred yards around, almost halfway. And we're on the radio, and there was a knock at first, I believe. It was a knock. And they asked me, they radioed to me. They said, did you just do a knock? And I said, no, but I heard it, and it was pretty close. And it couldn't have been, 5 minutes later? If that, this tree gets pushed over, and it had to be less than 100 yards from where I was standing. And they asked me if I pushed it over, and I said, no, but you better come back. Yep.
Oh, man.
So, and we were up there fishing one time, him and I, and rock throwing. We had, you can tell the size of a rock when it hits the water by that sound, that kathuzz sound.
Whoosh.
Yes. Well, you could tell the size of a rock, how heavy it is. Well, these rocks that got thrown in there were pretty heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And this was like on the other side of the pond. And we were just canoeing across it, trying to do a little fishing. And they did not want us there. Whatever it was did not want us there because it threw 2 good-sized rocks into that pond to push us out.
And the difference is...
Now, I'm going to be a little bit of a skeptic there.
Sure.
And the reason, does that pond have beaver in it?
I'm very familiar with what
I've never seen it. I've never seen it.
I remember being in Texas. Hearing whoosh.
Yeah, no,
throwing rocks at us in the water, and we eventually found the critter. It was this huge, like 60-pound beaver that was boom, boom, boom.
Yeah. No, we just trapped. I just trapped over 8 of them legally, old permits trapping, and our biggest one was a 65-pounder. Beavers slap the tail. Right. They slap the water, and that's what it sounds like. And that's what it sounds like, splash. And then when you get a rock and it hits the water, it goes ka-doot, and then there's a big splash afterwards.
And there was a splash that come out of that water.
There you go. And it's not like you guys have not heard beaver slaps. So that's why I bring up the skeptical question so you guys can bring that out to everybody.
No. Hey, I'm all for it. I tried every time we see something or we come across some evidence, I try to tear it apart.
Yeah.
I try to find fault, because it's not everything not everything's Bigfoot. And
that's true.
If you got to have an open mind, you really do.
And I'm going to show these tracks here in a second, but I want to get to a couple of things that were said. And I want to thank Cryptic Crystal saying this is a great channel for the truth. It's, so I like that. And Rowdy said, well said. Stephen Chris have created a channel on questioning the evidence, which I'm glad to be a member of, because we do. We question evidence all the time. And don't think I go into these things, necessarily. I always look with the eye of, well, let's take a look and break it down and see what. But when you hear these guys talk, and you've talked to them in the past, and you see their evidence, big difference than, I understand. And I understand, it's very similar to the stuff I've gotten over the years as well. Mick made a comment about multiple encounters usually raises a red flag, but multiple corroborating witnesses outweighs that doubt. And they don't throw signs of making up stories. And that's true. Even my own sighting was corroborated by people hearing something moving through the woods, by other people finding the scuff mark that it walked into the woods with. There's always ways of finding corroboration a lot of times. Not always, but there is. And, like I said, the most authentic sighting report I've ever heard was 5 separate witnesses on 2 different incidents within 30 minutes of each other at the same location. And that really, it sounds incredible. Yep. But if it wasn't for 5 different witnesses and the one witness we brought back who wouldn't go up the hill because that's where it was, I'm not going up there. Yeah. And considering he was an Iraqi war vet.
Yeah,
and he wouldn't go up there.
Yeah, but this thing's bigger than what he was up against back over there.
Right.
Yeah, the thing is too, you got to remember. We're talking to these guys because they're researchers and we like what they do.
And I understand Raptor's line of questioning. I understand that. So sometimes I may take an affront to it because I've vetted people. So what I'm bringing you is a lot of these questions are already answered in my mind. And when people say, well, it's just convenient that nobody was taking audio or anything like that, well, what happens? I know. Unless you're out there as much.
That's why we didn't have audio.
Yeah. Right. And I've been out there without audio. I've been out there without video. I've been out there without plaster. It happens. It just happens. Like, I don't carry plaster in my vehicle every single time. If I go run to a site, what I do, though, is I do keep my DNA kit in the car now. And my hair sample kit.
There you go.
That Mike gave me. So I keep that stuff, all set and ready to run. But, and I had plaster in the car, but then you got to find water. And usually I put that together in the fall, and it goes with me all the time. Everywhere I go, it's in the back.
You don't want to, if you throw all of that into a pack, that pack's heavy.
You need a lot of plaster for some stuff.
One print is almost 5 pounds of plaster.
I don't usually carry plaster in with me. I carry it in the rig. And then if we find something, then I don't have to go to Home Depot. I just go to the rig. Okay, here it is.
Right.
Well,
exactly.
I'm not even interested in.
Sorry.
What's that, Chris?
I said I'm not even interested in casting. I don't care to carry the extra weight, and if I cast some tracks, I have to carry those back out. So, not interested in it.
Well, I've always said just like you. I said, well, why carry all that stuff in? But when we came across this track,
yams.
Yep.
When in doubt, cast it.
It was plain as day. Right. And if you didn't cast it, that would have been a shame. Yep. Because it was that prominent,
And it corroborates the story.
And it was no further, I bet you, 10 yards from where I saw it.
Yeah.
It was right there.
If I could go back in time to the early 2000s, we were cutting tobacco, and we had a nice trackway right across the middle of the tobacco patch. and it was myself and my dad had found it. And at that time, I wasn't really interested in Bigfoot. You know, Dad looked at the tracks and said, "Golly, old Bigfoot's been through here." I said, "Well, something's been through here for sure enough." And they were large, like the one you showed earlier, about 9 inches wide. Now this was at the heel, and you know, I'm gonna say maybe 20. I don't know, long.
Yeah.
But the thought never occurred to me to cast those. But I wish I could go back and cast them now, because that would have been perfect. That would have been, you know, perfectly in that clay soil. Everything was pushed down beautifully. That would have made some of the best casts ever was. But those days are gone.
And here's another good idea that Mike always brings out is the I don't know if you guys got can you just turn your volume down a squitch, guys, a little bit, because we're starting to get feedback on the just a little bit.
Oh boy, here we go.
Uh-oh, that's the ceiling fan.
Here we go.
All right. Yeah, there we go.
Did it work?
That's a little bit better, yeah. I'm still hearing it, but it is what it is. But Mike says that 3D scan, he uses on his smartphone, he has a 3D scanning app. And that's a great way if you don't have if you don't bring casting material and you just want to scan the print.
Right.
Is that Mike Young?
Mike Ann.
Mike Ann. Interesting. Okay. I'll have to look into that.
Now, if you're perfectly healthy and able to carry that stuff extra, I think it's a good idea to have it with you.
Brian says, I carry a backpack. I used to carry peanut butter in since the air conservation. I don't carry the peanut butter, but still carry the pack, so they recognize me. So my question is what does I hear so many researchers using peanut butter. Oh, let me put peanut butter on the stick and whatnot. What does a Squatch even know what peanut butter is?
I don't know.
It kind of makes as much sense as leaving an orange out there in New York, because a Squatch has never seen an orange before.
Yeah,
or a banana.
Right.
However, maybe an orange would be something feasible to a skunk ape down in Florida, right?
It's possible.
Okay, but like sardines and okay, that's raw meat that may attract them with the smell. But like a foreign substance, a manufacturer. Yeah,
I don't know.
Steve, I think they're like bears. They're opportunists. They will eat anything. And if they smell something and they think it's an opportunity, they're going to come check it out potentially. Right. The only barrier would be something that they're afraid of, people, another scent they're cautious of. But if they smell food like any other critter, I mean, they're only out there to eat.
Well, Brian makes a very good point. In his experience, he says they lick the jars clean and put the lids back on.
I have heard of them putting the lids back on.
Cliff Barackman, he's got the knuckles in the peanut butter jar.
The Nutella.
The Nutella. I'm sorry, the Nutella. And it, it's clearly something. Yeah, it's right there. It's a cast he's got.
I mean, I suppose somebody try to taste it and like it, and then but you're sticking to the sweet and the salty, and that's like Nutella's sweet, and we know that primates hone in on that. But let's talk about those tracks that you got, and I want to get to those because it's 10:30 now.
Yeah. All right.
So here.
Yeah.
All right. So, like I was saying, it's Labor Day. It's just last year, September.
Yep.
And it's been raining. We were going to go fishing, and there was already somebody at the spot, so we decided to go squatching.
There it is. It's not working again.
It crashed.
Bummer.
So we saw them earlier. They were up earlier.
There we are. All right. So anyway, we were going to go fishing, and our spot was taken, so we decided we were going to go squatching instead. So we went up to Savoy and headed in to where Eric had his experience, Eric and John, through that BFRO expedition. Yeah. We crossed it. We parked. We're pretty far into the woods. We parked down by this creek, crossed the creek, and we started heading up. And next thing you know, we started hearing wood knocks. And they weren't loud wood knocks, like you typically hear like the Louisville slugger thing.
Right.
It wasn't like that. These were more like tapping, kind of loud tapping on a tree is what it sounded like. And it was coming in multiple directions. And so as multiple taps, it's raining out, and there was also stones being thrown at us. So we tried to do the recording, broke out the phones, and we're recording, going around and trying to capture something. But the rain inevitably just trashed the recording. So there was you couldn't decipher a wood knock from a raindrop. So it was kind of garbage. Having said that, the reality was it was actually happening. The wood knocks were getting closer. The rocks were getting closer. And then we started hearing whistles. We backed out. We went back to the car. We chilled out for a little bit. Safety meeting.
Yeah.
and then we crossed the creek probably a half hour later and started up the mountain, and it happened again. We got a little further, just a little bit further. Now this has been logged off, so the undergrowth is really thick. It's dense, little new growth. So you can't really see into it, even though it's Labor Day. Not all the leaves have fallen off the trees and stuff. That won't happen until October.
Right.
So, and it's raining again. The stones, the sticks, the whistles. This time it was louder. The knocks were a little louder, and it was definitely getting closer with the rocks. So we bailed again for a second time. And when we bailed this time, we went and got something to eat downtown.
Yeah. We had left. We said, let's get out of here.
We're out.
So we went and had lunch.
Yeah.
And we said, you know what? We're sitting there having lunch and we're talking about what just happened. And then we said, you know what? Let's come back tomorrow morning. We'll come in super early. Maybe we can get in, get out before they even know that we're here. Yeah, right. Like that's going to happen. So we turn around. We come back the next morning. I think
we're casting at 6 a.m.
Yeah, we were casting at 6. We were in there about 4:30, and when we walked in, and we get to this spot. I wanted to get to the top because I knew that there was going to be this one spot. It's always wet, and if there's going to be a track, that's where you're going to find it.
Rains 4 days.
So we get to the top, and there they are. Plain as day. It was unbelievable. And we went, oh man. I says, what are we going to do? The water in the puddle was pretty deep, but these two tracks were right on the edge.
And we were dry.
Yes,
when we saw them.
They were dry.
That means they were fresh. Otherwise, they were going to fill up with water.
Yeah, they were right in front of us. So they were dry. So I turned around and I said, oh, these got to be juveniles. And I says, we got to cast these things. So we turned around and I'm trying to cast like crazy. I get the cast. I get the stuff. Yes, there they are there. I mean, if you look at the one to the left, you look, I mean, you could see the top of the big toe and everything else going out.
Right.
And then the top right one, you can see the same thing. Unbelievable. Right. I mean, these were two beautiful casts.
Right.
So we turned around and we did those. And then we walked off. While we were letting those harden, we walked off to the spot where I had my Class A sighting. And we were standing there. And we're just kind of softly talking to each other. And all of a sudden, of course, we don't have our phone on or anything, which was our bad.
We were casting.
We were casting. We were trying to keep track of what was going on.
Yeah.
We hear the solid tree knock. I mean, and this thing was solid.
That was the Louisville slugger one.
It was the only sound that there was. All of a sudden, it's like the forest floor stood up and just started moving. Whatever was out in front of us just stood up and started moving. And there had to be multiple. Oh, there had to be multiple, 6, 7 of them. Well, I don't know what they were. They never came out so we could see them. They never made a noise, but they were in different spots and you could hear them get up and just start moving.
Yep.
And they were gone.
When you guys heard that, when you guys heard that tree knock, was that a one single knock
Single knot.
Single knot.
Okay.
And that was super loud.
Yep.
It,
Super loud.
that was to let them know, get up and start moving or whatever it was.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, guys. When was this exactly?
September 4th.
Labor Day.
Somewhere around in there.
22.
So the temperature was rather warm that day, I assume.
It was warm. We had rain. We had a lot of rain over the weekend. Yeah, no, it
wasn't cold.
And there was nobody. There was nobody in these woods. It's too far out for a human being.
Yeah.
Not that to say that there can't be, because if you're there, somebody else can be there. But this was dry. This was right in front of us. And there was no way that was a person in front of us, because we would have seen them. Because the print was dry. It should have been wet. But when they stepped in it, it made a footprint, which made that base,
right.
And it kept the water out. And it was fresh. It was right in front of us. Saying that there's no, I mean, I can't imagine a little kid running around in the woods.
Yeah, the tracks aren't the biggest, size of a paper plate. I don't know, 7-8 inches maybe.
Yeah.
They're not big. And that's why we think they're juveniles. And it also, with the tapping, the rocks, it was not an aggressive encounter, except for the second time when the rocks came closer. And that was our interpretation of aggressive. So we left. Didn't mean it was aggressive. They could have been playing with us like playing chicken. I think that they were just kind of playing with us the first day, second day, just throwing tiny pebbles and trying to keep us out of there. But we kept going in. And then the next morning, we're in there real early.
Yeah.
We get up there, it's 6 a.m. We find the cat, we find the tracks, or we're casting the tracks because we'd preserved them that night, the night before with birch bark, so that they wouldn't get any additional rain.
We had 4 days of rain. We didn't want any more rain.
So we laid birch bark over it, put some logs on them.
And that's when we got them.
Took that off when we got there, probably, I don't know, 5 o'clock, 5:30 in the morning or something. And then started casting by 6. And then we walked off. As they're drying, we walk off and we started both talking about Eric's experience with John with the first Bigfoot. And then, like you said, we heard that whack, and next thing you know, all this movement in front of us. And my first thought was a bear, or not just a bear, but a family, because there was multiple movement through the woods, and they weren't being shy about it. They were crashing through laurel and trees, and you could see it, but you couldn't see them. You couldn't see the creature or whatever, but you could hear it most definitely. Yeah. And so at that point, I don't want to become the target of a mother bear with cubs if that's what it was, but something was moving, and it was right after that knock, and it was right after we cast those tracks. And the day before, we got chased out of the woods twice by something throwing rocks at us.
Yeah.
I believe you guys are on to something, because when you talk about that one big crack right before they start moving, I think they do that if there's a group, if there's a small group of individuals. You get one big crack, and that's some kind of sign for them to move out or go, one or the other.
Exactly what happened.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what,
awesome.
I was in
Love
the
that.
Savoy maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and something was out there, and there was a couple of knocks, and something pushed over a tree when we decided to get closer. So yeah, very interesting.
Also on these tracks, when you look at them, if you take your boot off and get it wet and make a foot track, you're going to have that line on the outside of your foot, right? Your typical foot track. Yeah. When you look at these tracks here, maybe you can find another one. There's more of that mid-tarsal break where you don't have that long linear connection to the ball of the foot to the heel. It's not there. It's just the dip in between the ball of the foot and the heel. It just goes down. There's nothing.
If you look at it very closely, there is no real ball of the foot, just where we assume the ball of the foot would be.
Right.
That's the amazing thing. They don't have that impression at the big toe like
exactly.
we do.
And something,
and the other track you can see is kind of splayed out, because when we poured that, in fact, it was so it was odd looking that I wasn't going to cast it. And he said, no, cast it. I'm like, we're running out of mud. And so anyway, we casted it, and it turned out to be the better of the tracks because it showed the track was level on the heel, twisted on the fore part by the toes, and it created this weird thing with the toes, how they splayed out. Yeah. And I don't think my toes would do that, but this thing was all splayed out in a weird contorted looking way. And be it a normal track or not, it wasn't a typical, little foot. Yeah. Let's put it that way. It seemed like the dynamic of the foot wouldn't have done what this track is doing. Simple as that.
There we go.
Yeah, you could see in one of these tracks, that lower right-hand corner.
One appears the one that came over the rock right there.
Yep, you could see the dents in here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Those were some good tracks.
Some people will say they're bear tracks. Those aren't bear tracks. They're clearly not bear tracks.
No, I've been in the woods too long to see that.
No, and it's not even close to a bear track. If you know what a bear track looks like, that's not it. Simple. Even a double step, trust me, I know. I've seen them. I have plenty of bear encounters. I just did a tracking class with an ecology group the other day, and I sent them to a spot where there were bear tracks. Bear tracks have a long paw pad on the toes. These are feet. These are toes. Look at them.
Yep.
They're self-explanatory. And the one in the upper right-hand corner is the one that you can see is splayed out, and the toes are really weird on that one.
Right.
It's just happened to be the way it is.
Question from new member Pat Collins. How long are those prints?
I want to say they're probably, I don't have a tape with me, but they're 7 or 8 inches long.
Right.
4.5, 5 inches wide, maybe. They're, here's a boot print. Here's my print. So that's why we're considering it a juvenile.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's an adult.
No, it's clearly not the 17-inch track.
If that was an adult, that would have been a lot deeper because it was soft.
And you could see the contorted foot in there. It's not your normal.
No, it was mud. It was hard mud.
For such a small foot, it has awfully long toes.
Right.
Yeah, right? So it's a weird track at best. I'll leave it at that. Whether Juvenile did it, couldn't tell you. But I can tell you the experience that leads me to say that was a very
there was too much. There was too much other things that went on.
It seemed more playful. It seemed more playful than threatening.
Yeah. Like the first 2 days that we went in there, and it was tossing things at it. It was like they were playing games with us.
That was weird.
It really wasn't anything that they were trying to scare us out, but they
did.
Just, they did. They did twice.
Well, I think it's common.
It just goes to show you we went back.
I think they stick together in family groups, so you're going to have different size feet because you got different size individuals.
Yeah, they got to grow.
Different age, right?
You go from Steve, you had you had that video of the monkey, New York monkey video.
Oh, the tree monkey.
The baby Bigfoot. It looked like a monkey swinging from the trees.
Yeah,
that one there. So they got to start from somewhere. There's multiple videos or multiple pictures of potential Bigfoots carrying a young. So there's obviously going to be different sizes. So
exactly.
Well, there is a picture from Florida allegedly of a Bigfoot cat carrying its young, which we know is cockamamie.
Well, I think that one's actually carrying a teddy bear, a brown teddy bear.
Yeah, or there is a baby Bigfoot doll I have seen.
Well,
and it looks awfully similar to that one.
Got it.
But I don't want to get the reason why I went to the nuts and bolts of it, like the lack of a timestamp or any of that information, the metadata, because allegedly it was a trail cam photo. The reason why I avoid the subjective stuff, because what one person sees as a teddy bear, another person may see as real.
Right.
And without actually having the evidence to prove either way, you can't prove. So let's look at the story behind it. And the guy being very disingenuous on Reddit saying, well, my friend gave this to me, and oh, how I got the Florida swamp ape name. That was completely a joke. And it was years ago at GameStop. Well, then I find the guy. I actually find the guy. And it's kind of interesting because how I found him was kind of unique. But I found him spelling Florida swamp ape, the hashtag, because that's his screen name, hashtag Florida swamp ape.
Yeah.
I found it capitalized the same way he capitalizes it. And he was the only one using that hashtag Florida swamp ape. So I look up his Facebook profile, and there he is in April at the Florida Bigfoot Conference. Is that a coincidence or not? No, it's not. It's very, and he just happened to be a writer who likes writing fantasy stories. And we've run into those before, like Linda Newton Perry and J.C. Hayes, who have written books. John Tomical, who wrote The Creature. He also wrote, he was actually the Jen Clement that wrote the book The Creature back in 1976. And we find that he also wrote fantasy books as well. So you got to be very, very careful about, because people can talk all day about pictures. And like you say, where one person sees a costume, another person doesn't. Since we don't have a good backstory on it, let's look at the nuts and bolts of it. And when you look at the nuts and bolts, it was done by a fantasy writer who just recently went to a Bigfoot conference. And he's trying to play it off that, no, I don't have any involvement in Bigfoot. And I'm putting this on a Bigfoot site, although I believe it's a chimpanzee or bonobo, instead of putting it on a fish and wildlife site or anything like that.
Well, the problem with the Florida, if you get one that looks like a chimpanzee, they have at least 3 different chimp sanctuaries there that I know of. And so they do have natural surroundings for the chimpanzees. They can actually go out in the woods and live their lives like they would have normally lived it in the wild.
Right.
And that's the way a lot of the chimpanzees that were in the Alamogordo Primate Facility have been moved to these places in Florida too, along from everywhere else in the country. But when you see a photograph of one of these chimpanzees in the woods, it's not necessarily Bigfoot in the wild.
Exactly.
Before we get off, I have another incident. It'll be short and sweet. Everybody says you got to have a camera, you got to have recorders. We had better than that. We had a school group with us one time down in Northwest Connecticut. Yep. It was a religious group with their pastor. This pastor took his kids, there were 20 of them, I believe, to the top of this mountain. There is absolutely nothing around us. Nothing. They went up to this
privately owned mountain.
Right, it's a privately owned mountain. They go up to the top of this mountain. On the top there, it's called the Chimney. There used to be there was a house up there. It burnt down. The chimney's still there. So he took his kids up there.
And look, now it works.
Yeah. And they did whatever they were doing. They were up there. They come down, I don't know, 15 minutes later. We were getting dinner ready for them because it was one of our groups that we were teaching high ropes to. And they come down. I'm boiling water, and the pastor's standing beside me to my left. Tim is to my right, and all the kids are sitting at the kitchen table or at the picnic table. And we're sitting there, and all of a sudden, out of the clear blue, we had this siren sound that it was like you flipped a switch. It was just a high siren sound. It went on for 5-6 seconds, maybe, if that.
Yep.
And it was like it just got shut off. It just went whoop, and it was off. The pastor turned around.
Yeah.
The pastor turned around. His eyes were like $50, and he just looked at me, and I said, "Yep." I looked over at Tim, and he goes, "Oh yeah."
It sounded like a cop car at the very top of the mountain. Went, what?
And they came down, and there was nothing there. Yeah. Nothing. They just came off of the mountain and they could not. All the kids were just sitting there going, "What was that?
What did we just hear?" Okay, so quick question from Brian Barber again. What did the Vogel brothers think of the Mayaka skunk ape photos?
I don't know. I haven't seen. Drawing a blank on them. Sorry,
I can't answer that question for you, bud.
Yeah,
my bad.
I have my reservations. There was a gentleman on Reddit who did a very good job of showing the possibility of a Bigfoot hoaxer in the area at the time that may have been responsible for it. I guess we'll never know. It did get sent to a sheriff's department, the letter, but the letter sounds kind of suspect to me personally. But yeah, I can always do I think I did a video on the Mayaka skunk.
You did, yeah.
A while back. So you can check it out on the channel. But definitely strange. But I really, the anonymous stuff I really have an issue with. And just like Florida, the number one way to automatically start saying it's a hoax or realizing it's a hoax is when somebody says, "Well, I have this picture here. My friend gave it to me."
Yeah.
That's usually a bad sign. That's exactly what the Florida swamp ape photo does is, I got this from a friend, but he doesn't want to reveal the location because, hunting spots are at a premium here and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you know what? Horseshit. Pardon my French.
I heard and somebody said.
Right. Yeah. A little smarter than that, if somebody's generally saying that it was given to me by a friend, well, who's your friend? Well, name the friend.
Which one?
Right. He's willing to give it to you to post it around. Certainly, so there is no friend. Let's cut the horse pucky with that. It was posted by this guy.
Trying to get a reaction.
Right.
Yep. So after the whistle, we finished dinner. We're getting ready to crash. The owls that night were super agitated. I would use the word agitated. It was like 10 owls in one area just going off. Hadn't experienced that before either. And then the coyotes were really, really mouthy, and they were chatting up a storm. And there was multiple, I don't know, probably 6 or 7 of those
at least,
because we saw them running down the bottom of near a creek anyway. But they were pretty mouthy, and the owls were real mouthy. So the environment was kind of agitated all the way right up until dark. Then we're crashed out, and all of a sudden, things quieted down. And then later on that night, things started to get loud again, and you could hear the dogs running down the mountain. And Eric swears he sleeps in a hammock, so he swears he felt one of their tails going to his hammock. That's how close they were. They came right through camp.
You could hear them coming, and I just went, "Oh no! I hope I'm high enough."
All I hear is, "Hey, they're coming! They're coming!" He snores, so I sleep well away from where he is.
So I'll tell you this. Years ago, I was camped out in Vermont, and it was just my tent was a shambles at the time. I got a new tent now, but. So I said, I'm going to sleep in my truck, and I slept about 30 feet from a guy who decided he was going to sleep in his tent. And we had radios in case we heard something. Of course, my truck is all buttoned up, so I can't hear a thing. Look what the cat dragged in. Hello, John Wilk. So so anyway, it was about 3 hours in, and all of a sudden the radio squawks. Hey, there's coyotes out here. I can hear them yipping. And I was like, and again, Raptor, you did not get blocked. So I'm sick and tired of you saying you're blocked when you're not. Really, I don't even have the YouTube chat up here to block you. So no. I did not block you, Raptor.
No. Innocent. Didn't do it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know how to do it.
I know how to do it, but I didn't do it in this case. I talked it out, and then he got quiet, and I was like, okay. And now all of a sudden he's back saying, I can't believe I get blocked for asking questions and being nice. What is the dealio?
So after
I didn't block you.
No, I didn't do it. I don't know. Somebody else with a wrench did. I don't know. Don't know about it.
Yeah. And even Cryptic Crystal says, I can see your comments, Raptor. I didn't see him pop through the chat unless I missed it. Of course, I don't always pay attention to the chat, working some of these technical difficulties.
You're not going to get censored on this channel or blocked unless you're doing something really vulgar or rude.
You're trying to tank the show.
Yeah, we don't have any time for rudeness or anything like that.
Right.
I'm not going to censor you just for asking a question.
Right. And you know what, Raptor? I don't mind you asking questions. Just maybe it's the tonation. Again, when it comes to chats and stuff like that, you don't know the intonation somebody's using or that. So sometimes it comes off differently to different people. But no, you wouldn't have been blocked or something like that.
Steve, we're getting close to the end here, and before we get out of here, I want to make sure that I ask Tim and Eric on these whistles, okay? Because this is something I've got an interest in for the local research here. When you guys you have heard these whistles that have been described, correct?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Okay. In your experience, are they short blasts or are they long blasts? Like a longer whistle?
Actually, probably I've heard more short ones than the only long one I heard was the one in Connecticut, and that was that long sustained whistle that sounded like a cop car. And there's no way it was a cop car, not even remotely close. It had to be a whistle. There's nothing else that it could have been. It just can't be up.
I mean, I wouldn't say just sometimes it is, but it might be just a little bit longer.
Yeah, they're not long.
But they're not sustained.
Not a whimpoorwill. Yeah, I get where you're going.
No, there's no tone. It's just a kind of thing.
Right there. That's it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Do Eric and Tim have YouTube or social media?
No. Facebook.
You're on Facebook. Your guys are on Facebook. So.
Right.
And,
we don't
do you can find them under their names.
We don't, do the podcast things and stuff like that. We're pretty quiet. We work with a couple of people, and this is the first time we've been sharing our stuff on public. First time, probably.
Yeah. Let me tell you,
we've done expeditions and shows and things, but this is the first podcast where we're showing off casts that we've actually done.
If there's anybody out there that's seen anything here in Massachusetts or surrounding area,
contact.
You get a hold of us. You get a hold of Squatchdetective, and we will be on the road within hours.
Yeah, we go through them just like the BFRO.
We will be on the road within hours.
We try to weed out the crazy, and there's some really good legit stuff. And
there's a lot of people that have a good story, but they're afraid to tell it.
Yeah.
Well, they can get a hold of us.
That was my whole purpose of having you guys there at the Southwick Public Library. I wanted to reach out, have you guys come down. That way, if there were some people that wanted to talk about their Bigfoot experiences, or in the case a couple of people wanted to get involved in research, I could pass them off to the right people that are close by.
We picked up 2 Class A sightings out of that.
Oh, there you go.
We're talking after the show there.
Very good.
So we'll just add that onto the list that we've got now.
And that's what I try to do there. I said, it's not my turf. Let me get these guys in here. If something happens, give it to them. And that's why I did that at the end. If you have any reports, these are the guys to talk to.
Good deal.
They're right here. And so I want to thank you guys for coming on tonight. We're running just a couple of minutes late, but that's okay. I want to thank you guys for coming on tonight. You've been great, and I'll be seeing you real soon. I want to get up to October Mountain this fall. So I'll throw a holler out to you and John and whatnot, and want to get out there just to pounce around a bit, see where the sites are, and then I will tell you a very interesting event I had there when many years ago. I was working as a safety and security director for Schweitzer Maudet, which was the paper mill in Lee. And they have a pump house on October Mountain, and twice a night I would drive up there.
Nice.
So I'll tell you my story then. I'll tell you my story then. I only have one, but I'll tell you, and you guys will be very interested. Anyway, Chris, do your thing.
Again, I want to thank Eric and Tim for being on with us. It's been a real treat and a real honor to have you. Enjoy your stuff, and I love talking and seeing about stuff that I like, and what you guys presented, I like. If you guys are, I want to thank our members and our new members for joining the channel. We appreciate you guys. Everybody that's watching on YouTube tonight, if you're not already subscribed, hit that button. Punch the like button. Share it out if you can. We don't pay for advertising or anything, so it's all word of mouth, guys. Help us with the algorithm. We appreciate you guys. You're the greatest audience in the whole world of podcasting.
And before you leave, make sure you hit that thumbs up button.
Oh yeah,
lock it in.
We need that. But we're so honored to have you, and thank you for being here with us. We appreciate you guys.
Hey, guys, thanks for having us on.
It's been my honor to have you guys on. I look forward to working with you in the near future. And, you guys be safe out there. And on behalf of me and everybody here at Squatch-D TV, we want to wish everybody a happy, healthy, and safe week. We'll be right here next week, 9 p.m. Eastern, with Julie Wrench and David Ellis talking about Bigfoot in the Uwharrie National Park in North Carolina. So we'll catch y'all here again. Everybody, remember, keep on squatching.
Hey folks, you've been watching Squatch-D TV. Join us each week, Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern for the latest on the Bigfoot mystery. As always, we thank you for being our loyal viewers and encourage all to subscribe to our YouTube page at youtube.com/Steve Kulls. As always, have a great week. Stay safe. God bless. And keep on squatching.